Hey everyone, I'm Jay and I do stuff. Throughout my Pokemon career, one of my favorite features to use has to be the cross-generational transfer feature. I find it so cool how you can raise and train up a Pokemon in one game, then move it up to the next games to use. Having new experiences with your old faithful while also being able to say, yeah, this bad boy came all the way from this past generation. Even in the very beginning, Pokemon was conceptualized to be able to have all these different creatures and being able to move them to other software through the Game Boy link cable. Whether it be to another person's game on the same generation, or up to newer gens. However, there are a lot of casual players who don't really bother with this feature of keeping their past mons, but rather they just stick to using only the newer mons in every game.
But I'm the kind of person that spends most of my new Pokemon games playing with as many new Pokemon as I can.
I have only transferred Pokemon to another game once. And I felt kind of cheaty about it. Even recently in Pokemon Let's Go, I got that special Mew for the Pokeball controller, and I put Mew into the game from the beginning, and I felt mildly scummy for it. I don't know exactly why. It just feels like I didn't earn it, I guess.
But if I'm being honest, these people are seriously missing out on the full immersion of the series. These games are so much more fun when you really put yourself into the world and actually feel that these creatures are your trusted partners through thick and thin. Using a team of strong mons in one game, only to throw them aside for the next games, kinda gives into the whole mentality of consume product and get excited for next product. Treating Pokemon like any other play, beat, and abandon title. Although it really doesn't help that Pokemon themselves treat the games like annual releases. Still, I wanted to go over my most recent experience with raising up and transferring my Pokemon. There are other people who have documented their own experiences with transferring Pokemon, so I wanted to throw my hat into the ring and go over the process as well as why I like bringing up my beloved mons to the latest games before the inevitable shutdown of Pokemon Bank. Which is the only way to transfer Pokemon from the 3DS to the Switch. Hopefully I can enlighten some of you more casual players and encourage you to try raising up your own mons to grow attached to. I think it'd be super fun to have a community where people share their beloved mons and experiences throughout the generations. To start off, I first played through the Generation 1 games to build up my initial team. I played through my own personalized Pokemon Pink ROM hack through my modded 3DS. At its core, it's a hack of the Pokemon Yellow version. But instead of Ash and Pikachu, I played as my Pokemon trainer Persona J, with the Pokemon Porygon. Basically, I had Porygon following me around and could even interact and talk to it. I played through the game like normal and gathered my team based on my character J's original team. I caught a Pinsir, whom I added to Viridian Forest for this hack. Next, I got a Rhyhorn in the Safari Zone. Then I fished up a Horsey near Vermilion City. Finally, I caught an Onix in Victory Road. Now, I wanted this Onix to replicate my first shiny Onix I caught back in Fire Red. While some Pokemon obtained in Gen 1 can be shiny, random encounters cannot be. So I ultimately decided to simply make my Onix shiny in an editor. In addition to being shiny, the stats had to be altered a bit since that's how shinies worked in Gens 1 and 2. But honestly, that won't matter too much because of Gen 7's hyper training, so the stats will become perfect regardless. I know people hiss at the thought of cheating in Pokemon, but since this is Gen 1, it really shouldn't set off any legality flags. Besides, I'm already playing on a ROM hack game, so any purity is immediately thrown out the window. I'm telling you this now since, if I don't, someone's going to sniff it out anyways. Anyways, I played through the main campaign normally. Got all 8 gym badges, kicked some ass, became champion, then beat up Mewtwo for good measure. With nothing else left to do, I went ahead and traded my mons over to my Pokemon Gold game. I had to trade them to another 3DS only to trade them back to my system with my Gold game. The transfer seemed to go smoothly as everyone wasn't glitched out from being from a ROM hack, as well as Onix keeping its shininess. In my gold game, I was already up to the Elite Four after getting all the Johto badges. That way, all of my Pokemon were still obedient. However, before taking on the league, I took a quick detour to hatch my last team member, Shuckle. Given how underleveled it is and how the Pokemon itself works, Shuckle isn't going to be doing much here for a while. Also, I took the time to evolve my Seadra and Onix into Kingdra and Steelix respectively. I beat the Elite Four and became champion again. Then I went and played through the postgame in Kanto. Again. Getting all 16 badges and leveling up my team even more, I went up to Mount Silver to face Red. Red was pretty tough given how underleveled and unoptimized my stats were, but we pulled through. After all that, I was pretty much done with Gen 2 and the original Game Boy in general. At this point you're probably thinking that since I'm playing on a 3DS, I must be planning on transferring through PokeTransporter to Gen 7, right? Well, you'd be wrong in thinking that. One of the perks of having a modded 3DS is being able to back up your game saves and transfer the files via an SD card. With that in mind, I took the save backups and put them onto my original game cartridges through an additional plug-in adapter. Now, if you know your Pokemon history, you'd know that there was never a way to directly transfer Pokemon from Gen 2 to the Gen 3 games on the Game Boy Advance. Not officially, anyway. However, fans have been able to create their own programs to allow transferring to the Game Boy Advance. The program I'll be using is the homebrewed PokeTransporter GB created by the GearsofProgress over on Twitter. This program is very recent and is the most fancy and efficient way of the programs available. Keep in mind that I did this transfer a while back on an earlier build of the program, so current builds will probably look and act different from mine. But how it works is that you upload the app onto a Game Boy Advance through either a custom flashcard or the GameCube's link cable through an ejector app on Homebrew. I installed the app through my hacked Wii. After it uploads, you are prompted to insert the Gen 3 game of your choosing. In my case, I used my old Pokemon Ruby game. After setting up which Gen 1 or 2 game you're using, you then turn on your Game Boy Color with the corresponding game. In the game, talk to the intern at the Pokemon Center and initiate a trade. Any Pokemon you have in the first box of your PC will be transferred. After that setup, connect the Game Boy Color to the Advance with the link cable. Before transferring, you'll be shown all the Pokemon that will be transferred with little sprites and everything. After confirming, the Game Boy Color will reset and the Pokemon will be sent to the Gen 3 game. Checking the PC on the Game Boy Color now will show that all the Pokemon in Box 1 are all gone. Heading over to my Ruby game, you can only transfer Mons after you've become champion, as well as unlock the mystery gift option in the start menu. After doing the transfer, the app sends a custom script to the game where you talk to Lynette, who worked on the game's box system, and she'll deposit all your Mons into the PC. And there we have it. All of my original team safely transferred to Generation 3. They even have the same original trainer and IDs from the original game, as well as the correct natures via the amount of experience points I gave them in Gen 2. It feels so magical. After obtaining my team, I went all the way back to the Elite Four and beat Steven, awarding each of my Pokemon with the Champion Ribbon. Now from here on out, ribbons will be a big part of this adventure. You see, in Gen 3 onwards, they introduced this ribbon system, giving your Pokemon ribbons in their status menu for doing certain tasks. It's basically an achievement system for every individual Pokemon. This will be very important in preserving my Pokemon's legacy, proving how far they've come. After getting the champion ribbons, there's not much else to do as I have no interest in contests and I couldn't really get anywhere in the battle tower. So I guess it's as good a time as any to transfer to Generation 4. I plugged both my Ruby game and my Heart Gold game into my DS Lite and transferred my team over via the PAL Park. It's much more convenient transferring through the Gen 2 remakes, whereas in Diamond and Pearl you have to wait a day just to do one transfer. So after hunting down my original team, it pretty much goes the same as my original gold playthrough. I beat the champion, and I also beat Red again and got the rare Legends ribbons on each of my Mons. In addition, I also tried my hand at the Pokeathlon and took some photos. Neither resulted in ribbons, but they were fun to make memories. I also went ahead and collected each of the weekday ribbons from the various NPCs you find throughout the region. You can only get one ribbon for one Pokemon each week, so I kinda had to manipulate my DS internal clock not to take too much time. I also tried my hand at the Battle Frontier and didn't really get anywhere as my Pokemon's IVs were just not good enough. Next, I traded my Mons over to my Diamond game, but not before giving Rhydon the Protector item, evolving it into Rhyperior. In Diamond, I took down the Elite Four and beat Cynthia, earning the Sinnoh Champion ribbons. After, I went ahead and bought those expensive ribbons at the Resort Club. Next, I went over to the Battle Tower and miraculously won both the Great Ability and Double Ability ribbons. Other ribbons include the Footprint ribbon and the Effort ribbon. Next up is Generation 5. I used my 3DS to transfer my team on my DS Lite to my White 2 game. Getting the Pokemon was tricky from playing this infamous Slingshot minigame. But you know, even if some of these methods for transfer are less than convenient, it's still pretty fun overall thinking about how these games and devices can interact and trade data. No adventure is without its tough points after all. Now, in the Generation 5 games, unfortunately there aren't any new ribbons to earn this time around. I guess Game Freak must have forgotten about them during Gen 5's development? Either way, I went ahead and beat the Unova champion just for the personal satisfaction. After that, I went over to the Pokemon World Tournament and won a round in the Unova League. Again, no new ribbons, but I did take the time to teach my Mon some new moves. With not much to do in White 2, I went ahead and used the 3DS app PokeTransporter to send my team up to Pokemon Bank. There, I sent my Mons over to my X game. Again, I went to the Elite Four and obtained my Kalos Champion ribbons. But I was also able to Mega Evolve Pinsir for the first time, so that was pretty cool. I then played around with and maxed out my Pokemon's Affection and Pokemon Amie, earning me the Best Friends ribbons. I also tried doing the Super Training minigames to earn training ribbons, but it proved too tedious and long to beat every time record in that mode. I then went to the Battle Mason and won my team Expert Battle ribbons. Also, from Gen 6 onward, my previous Battle Tower ribbons now turned into Battle Memory ribbons. I guess they got tired of programming the individual ribbons. Lastly, for Gen 6, I traded my team over to my Alpha Sapphire game and beat the Elite Four. Again. Winning my team Hoenn Champion ribbons. Next up is Generation 7. All I had to do for transfer was put my team in and out of Pokemon Bank, then into my Ultra Moon game. Here I was able to utilize Mega Evolution for Pinsir, as well as Z conversion for Porygon. I also took the time here to take some pictures with my Pokemon via the Ultra Games photo feature. This mode might be small, but I found myself having lots of fun taking stylized pictures with my team members. Definitely an underlooked feature of these games. On to the ribbons, I went ahead and beat the Elite Four and defended my champion title with Gladion as my opponent. It was nice taking down his Silvally and Porygon Z with my regular Porygon. Thus, I won the Alola champion ribbons. After grinding to level 100, I was also able to finally Hyper Train my Mons to perfect stats. Now the team is actually usable in more serious battles. I then took my team down to the Battle Royale arena to win Battle Royale Master Ribbons. Boy, I forgot how utterly cheap Battle Royales were. Everybody has the move Protect, is stronger and faster than me, and someone always has to steal my kills. If you aim for an opponent that gets knocked out, your attack is not redirected and thus makes you a sitting duck. But I managed to pull through the Master Round. Next up was the Battle Tree. It took a few tries to beat Blue, but I eventually earned the Battle Tree Master Ribbons. With everything I could do on the 3DS out of the way, it's time to transfer up to the Switch. However, in order to bring my team up to Pokemon Home, I need to give the Pokemon Company more money just to subscribe to their scummy premium service just to simply transfer from Pokemon Bank. Sure, it's only like $3 for a month of service, but when Pokemon Bank had a paywall, you paid $5 for an entire year of service. So if you want the same amount for Home's premium service, you need to cough up about $16 at least. But this isn't the place or the time to be complaining about that now. I forked over the money and got my team over to the Switch. I then sent them over to my Sword game. Despite Sword and Shield being the first modern games to cut out a good chunk of Pokemon, my whole original team is able to be transferred and used, so I guess that's a point for it. Anyways, I went to Wyndon Stadium and chose Leon as my champion opponent. After defeating him, my Pokemon obtained the Galar Champion ribbons as well as a place on the title screen. Then I headed over to the Battle Tower and faced Leon again. He was a bit tougher this time, with us all being level 50, but I eventually made it through and got the Tower Master ribbons. Next, I got all my Pokemon battle ready for ranked battles, basically resetting my Pokemon's move pools. But they weren't that hard to get back to the way they were. I also used ability capsules and patches to give Pinsir the Moxie hidden ability as well as Rhyperior the Solid Rock ability. Now I was ready to get into ranked battles to earn Rank Master ribbons. Only, nobody plays Sword and Shield anymore, so I had nobody to face to climb the ladder. I could still earn them in Scarlet and Violet, except half of my team can't be transferred over. So basically, I'm left with leaving Pinsir, Steelix, and Shuckle stuck in my Sword game. This is one of the frustrating parts of the whole Dex Cut thing, not being able to share all the experiences with your whole teams. With nothing else left to do in Sword, I transfer what I could of my team over to my Violet game. But not before taking a quick detour into Legends Arceus. There's only one ribbon to be earned in Legends Arceus, being the Hisui ribbon. I brought my Porygon there alone because my Porygon is special with unique privileges like that. So I simply took an old-fashioned snapshot with it, earning the Hisui ribbon. Back to Pokemon Violet, I took Porygon, Kingdra, and Rhyperior into the Academy Ace Tournament, earning the Paldea Champion ribbons. Though it is a shame I can't fight Geeta and the Elite Four with the full team. But Game Freak just can't be bothered anymore. After that, I finally entered rank battles and earned Rank Master ribbons for the 3 Pokemon. Now, what to do about Pinsir, Steelix, and Shuckle? I can't get anywhere in rank battles in Sword, so I guess I'll just have to wait and hope that they all make the cut in the next Generation 10 games. I hate how this is essentially all up to chance now. It's already bad enough that they'll never get Paldea Champion ribbons. But with that, here's where my transferring journey ends for now. Looking back in retrospect, it's simply amazing how far you can take one of these critters and what you can do with them along the way. From the original Game Boy all the way to the modern day Switch, you are able to bring that same data over. With a little outside help, of course. Also, with the ribbons, you're able to keep those memories and achievements with actual proof of your accomplishments. Sure, not all the journey was smooth sailing, but even then, it's still worth the hassle of bringing these things along for the long term. It really is a shame that it's gonna stop pretty soon with the closure of Pokemon Bank. That's why if you want to try this out yourself and fully immerse yourself into the Pokemon experience, you've got to do it now while you're still able to.
Don't die lonely like me. Raise a Pokemon and do it now! 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 Now!
Even if you aren't fully engaged into the series and just use the newest mons in each installment only to put those mons away after, I would encourage you to at least try bringing over your older mons right now while you can. Don't end up regretting not doing it after it's too late. This is one of the biggest, most magical aspects about Pokemon. Raising up your own Pokemon as your partners. That Arcanine you caught and raised isn't just another regular Arcanine. That is your Arcanine. one of your signature teammates, or really any Pokemon you catch and raise from the ground up, whether it be from the original generation, the latest generation, or even a cool ROM hack. Every Pokemon is precious to somebody. I hope with this, more people can understand and sympathize better with fans with beloved favorites who further immerse themselves into the game's full experience. You may not think it matters, but we do exist and we matter. If you're one of these like-minded people like me, please tell me about any of your favorite Pokemon you've raised and transferred over the years. I'd love to hear and share all sorts of different experiences. That's all I have for this video though. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching the video. Want to be notified when I upload another? Just click the subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it. I'd love for my stuff to be seen by everyone possible.